Everyone, and welcome to the next session of LitFestx. We are joined with Dr. Shyam Bhat, who is a psychiatrist, integrative medicine specialist, and now in his new avatar as a writer. He's the founder of Serenity and also a trustee at the Live, Love, Laugh Foundation, which was founded by Deepika Padukone. His recent book is How to Heal Your Broken Heart, and it is available on Juggernaut Books app. Dr. Bhatt, welcome to LitFestx.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me, Kumaar.
Great. So, if I can call you Sham, is that okay?
Sure,
Great. So,
that's fine.
Sham, we keep reading, every day in the papers or even online that not just in India but world over, especially in urban environments, the number of suicides and the number of people who are, clinically diagnosed with depression because of falling out of relationships or other psychiatrist issues. We've seen a huge increase in that, and in your line of work you must be seeing the reasons for this happening to be varying over the over a period of time. So tell us a little bit about what is changing, what's happening, and what's the environment like.
Yeah. So, Kumar, I mean, this phenomenon has been, our country basically is going through unprecedented change. It is unprecedented in the sense that never before in recorded human history have so many people gone through such a rapid socio-economic transformation. It's never happened. You have close to 400, 500, 600 million people who in the last 10 years have either they've had seen a socioeconomic change in their own lives, or their aspirations, ambitions, values, everything has become, is changing. Whenever society changes, it becomes difficult for people, even though they may not know that it is difficult. So old days, when communist Russia ended and moved towards, USSR ended and we moved to the current sort of system of government. Many people obviously embraced the freedom, but there was a lot of distress and psychological distress back at that time. So one is, every time society changes, you're going to have stress. But I think there's some particular reasons for the stress in India beyond just change. And that is the kind of change we are seeing is moving from what we call collectivism, where an individual is not defined just by who he or she is, but by how he or she fits into the society. So traditionally, Indians have been what we call collectivist. We are moving now towards a more individualistic society. What that means now is people are living more separate, more isolated lives. There's no joint families, very few now. You have nuclear families. You have gender roles that are changing. It's not like your mother's generation where women, men, there was some inflexibility, one would say, in gender roles. So that's changing now. There's a lot more room for flexibility, and therefore sometimes room for confusion and conflict within the genders. So you combine a fast-paced urban lifestyle, heightened aspirations and ambition, increasing competition and stress, a self-worth that is defined by how successful you are rather than by old school values like humility and integrity, and add to that pollution and fast food and a disintegrating family fabric. It's easy to see why the brain can get so stressed out. And we have the genetic potential. This is the alarming news. And I'm not just being alarmist. I'm talking about real scientific fact. 50% of our country has a genetic predisposition for clinical depression, as opposed to 20% in the United States. 50%. Now, the reason we haven't been depressed in so many numbers before is because our society was very healthy actually for the mind. Old India, pre it was actually healthier for the mind. I'm not saying I would want to go back to that India. I think we're making great progress. But sometimes what we want for progress and what we want for, in terms of progress is not necessarily good for the mind. And so there we have the problem that this is the perils of progress. And so in today's India, I believe that every individual needs to learn stuff that our forefathers didn't need to learn about until they were much older. In the old days, if when you were in your 60s, you could you would then explore things like, okay, why am I born? What is the meaning of my life? What is God about? What is spirituality? What is death? What is life? Today's India, you can't postpone it until you're 60. My strong feeling is that we have to start this process very early in our lives today, because as an individual you have more choice, more freedom, but therefore more existential questions. If you don't ask these questions early, and if you don't figure out who you are, what you're really about, what makes you tick, how do you handle your emotions, if we don't figure this out early in our life, I think the new India can be difficult. But if we learn to handle this, I think the new India offers remarkable opportunity for change, for transformation, for freedom. And what I really hope, Kumar, is that we have a country where we are individuals, yes, we are free, but we're also connected with each other in a way that the West, unfortunately, hasn't done. And so one of my, I tell people, look, where in the world, show me a country or show me a society that has progressed and yet retained a good social fabric. Show me a country which has progressed and yet there's no emotional strife, depression, anguish, emptiness, loneliness. Show me a country. I don't see it. Not America, not Europe, most of Europe. And obviously I'm generalizing huge swaths of the population, but I'm saying culturally. Culturally, it doesn't happen. And if there's any doubt about it, look at the statistics. If you go west, 10% of people take antidepressants. Divorce rates are about 50%. Murder suicide rates are very high. It's real. So we need to figure this out as our country evolves. We want to be something that I think is a new model for individualism, a compassionate individualism, I like to call it, a connected individualism. To use the metaphor, I like to say we should be Buddha in the city, not in the
That
forest.
that's very interesting. You mentioned that, Sham, because clearly, as development has caught up, keeping aside
Hmm.
the last few years where everything's gone digital, but even before that,
Right.
you very rightly said that the pressures of modern society, it's much more external. And so almost when you're born you're already expected to look good. You're expected not to be throwing up as much. You're expected not to be having tantrums. You're expected to be a good baby, a good child, a good kid, a good student. So there's expectations, whether written or unwritten, said or unsaid, all throughout your life.
Hmm.
In that sort of an
Absolutely.
environment, when you say it's got to be about you know compassionate individualism, or a being who is more self-confident and self-aware, how do you see that translating into actions that people can take in today's environment? you know Clearly our fathers and forefathers, they had more time at hand, and it was a given that they would have set out time on a daily, weekly basis to do what we used to say chintan, or satsang, where they would get together and discuss positive things, spiritual things, read maybe the Quran, read the Gita, or the Ramayana, or the Upanishads or the Veda. We seem to have lost out on that opportunity, and are now trying to find all of this stuff, in cybersphere, or God knows where actually.
Well, I think that just like we in the last 5 or 10 years, things changed in the fields domain of physical fitness. So 10 years ago, the only person going to a gym was a hardcore bodybuilder. You and I wouldn't go to the gym. The average person wouldn't think of going to the gym. But today, what's happening across India is that everyone's, many people have gym memberships. You have people from all walks of life, housewives, executives, whatever, not just the bodybuilder. So it went from being a niche thing to being something that everyone realizes is good for them. The way I see it, mental health, mental well-being, mental balance, psychological insight. In the old days, you could say, yes, this is only for people who are really struggling. This is for people who we will deem mentally ill. It's not for you and I. Okay, or it's for someone who is a sage or a rishi who wants to get into self-realization, but it's not for you and I. What I'm saying now is that really it is time that everyone sort of, I think, and it's not for me to say what everyone should do. I'm only commenting on what I perceive as a psychiatrist, which is to say that in today's generation, psychological and emotional stress is one of the biggest determinants of the quality of life. Meaning, for a great many people today, basic material needs are being met. Once you meet your basic material needs, And by basic, of course, there's a wide definition of what basic is, but
Sure.
and we all know there's no end to human desire for material success. It doesn't stop. At some point, you're going to have to say, listen, I need to really start thinking about myself holistically, because as we know, I'm not going to take this money with me at the end of my life. So what I think, and that's a spiritual attitude to life, that my life has context in terms of the universe. It's not just about me in the city doing my work. It's about me as a human being, as a spiritual being on a journey. Now, you can dismiss it, and we often do, as new age mumbo jumbo. Listen, man, I've got deadlines, don't give me this. I've got an appraisal meeting. What are you talking about, right? What are you even talking? Well, I tell people, listen, that may be true. That may be true right now. But I want you to think of a time when you are 70 or 80 years old and you're reflecting back on your life and you're thinking about what you've done, what you're left behind, whose lives you've touched, what you have become in your journey, and who you have been in this lifetime. And that is going to happen to you, like it or not. It is happening moment by moment. Our life is happening. And I think we sometimes like to distract ourselves from larger questions because it's easier to get worried or stressed out about my job than to contemplate infinity and the universe. So yeah, I don't think it comes naturally in that sense, when we are caught up in the fast-paced urban life. However, humanistic psychologists like Carl Rogers, and I believe in this, believe, and it's not just Western psychologists, the whole Indian philosophy is this, that we have a soul, and our soul, whether we like it or not, is drawing us to something larger than this individual self that we have. Meaning that our purpose has to transcend the individual self if we are truly to feel fulfilled in life. I'm not just talking philosophically, I'm saying as an experience. Unless eventually your work and your life doesn't transcend you as an individual, you're not going to find happiness. Now, you ask me, how are we going to make time? I think it's a question of priority. We always make time for the things that we see as important. And my mission, Kumar, is to make sure that we can reclaim wisdom that is in any spiritual tradition and integrate that with Western psychology. What I see often is that when you are troubled, where do you go? You might go to a temple, you may go to your guruji, you may go to an ashram, you may go to an astrologer, you may go to a counselor, you may go to your aunt, you may go to your grandmother, your principal. You can go to multiple people, and everyone will have a perspective of your issue. What I've seen is, to really, really help someone, if you and I, any one of us, if we want to self actualize, then we must know ourselves from multiple perspectives. One is the perspective of the mind. What is our subconscious and conscious mind? Two is what's happening in the brain in terms of neural chemistry. Three, what is happening in our body and breath. Four, what is happening in terms of our relationships and our connections. Five, what is happening in terms of our spiritual growth. And I think these five domains, every issue that we have needs to be understood from these multiple domains. Therefore, we need to integrate ancient wisdom with modern psychology. Otherwise, we're not going to have this. And when we do this, I think we can create a system for our country where, this becomes part of our life, that this is everyday stuff. It's not about my grandmother's Gita or, separate from my life. Spirituality is not
Sure.
separate from my life, right? It's so much of fabric. And I hate to use sometimes the word spirituality. It sounds very, you know, go into a forest and and be a goody two shoes. I'm not saying be a goody two shoes at all. That's not
Sure.
what spirituality is about. It's about embracing your every part of you.
Sure.
So that's what this book is about, by the way. So my point in this book is that, can we use heartbreak as an experience that gives us insight into the deepest parts of ourselves, our spiritual nature, our physical nature, and our true emotional self? And I think we can. And in this book, I talk about how going through heartbreak and understanding yourself, you can enhance your life. And so heartbreak can be a very, very good force for change.
So tell us a little bit more. I mean, you've elaborated in the book on how you can use heartbreak to make, to change your life and make it into a really sort of profound, positive experience, post the heartbreak. So tell us a little bit about that.
Any suffering, and heartbreak is one of the greatest sufferings that people feel early on in their life, many people, because many times I think that many people go through their heartbreak in their late teens or 20s, and then sometimes they don't think of that as important down the line. They think that, well, I'm older, I really don't have any reason to think about romance and heartbreak and so on. But as a psychiatrist now, after 20 years or 15 years, or well, it's 20 years now of working as a psychiatrist in multiple cultures, it's interesting that I now feel that our there is a lot of truth to the wisdom we heard in various spiritual traditions, which told us love is God, that love is the most powerful healing force. And in a way, I can see all emotions as actually belonging to two categories. One is love, and one is fear. And they're mutually exclusive. The more you fear, the less you can love, and the more you love, the less you fear. And I think that all of your negative emotions, sadness, anger, um, envy, you name it, are all fear. And all your positive emotions like passion, like creativity, like compassion, like empathy, that's all love. So maybe John Lennon was right. Love is all you need. All you need is love, and so love is really, really powerful. Now, my point is, when we go through heartbreak, we are hurt in the most important area of our life, which is our heart. Because it's our heart that makes life meaningful, not our head. Our head makes us understand life, and our head might make you get you a living. But it's your heart that connects you to the visceral, real nature of existence. And when you, in your innocence, fall in love with someone, and a great many people in our country do, as we all over the world, the first time you fall in love is a beautiful experience. It's also naive in a way. It's wholehearted, and a person falls in love and they have a heartbreak, and then they get, many people go through trauma. But even worse than that, many people are always chronically a little heartbroken without knowing it. There are adults who are a little cynical. They are the adults who don't see joy anymore. They are the adults who think romance is for idiots. They are the adults who think that love is for fools. They are the adults who feel life is lost its joy, its meaning, its passion. So my hypothesis is that although very few people may say I'm heartbroken, a great many people are suffering from subtle forms of heartbreak. It may not be a romantic heartbreak. It may be with a family member, maybe with a friend, it may be with an ideology. And if we lock that feeling inside our head, in our hearts, and we close our hearts, we don't live fully. But if we look, pause, and during the time of heartbreak, we pause and we say, hey, what's happening within me? How can I relax in the time of suffering by accepting suffering? How can I then understand what loss means? How can I understand the fact that this love came from me, not from the other, although the other person received it? How can I then claim this love as my own being because it is from me? And that realization transforms lives. That's what this book is about healing, but also transforming from heartbreak. It's very short. It's about, I think it's an ebook right now. Print copy is coming soon. It's about 60 pages, easy read, and it's a kind of book I wish I had a chance to read in my 20s. When I myself went through heartbreak and I was alone and not sure who to turn to. So it's my way of giving back. Hoping that this reaches someone who is going through heartbreak and turns to it and finds solace and wisdom in it, and some insights.
Very interesting, Shyam. And I'm sure the book will do well, and I'm sure the message will reach to people who need it, and many more who
I
at
hope
some
so.
point in time in their lives, like you mentioned, are suffering from some sort of heartbreak. It's interesting
Hmm.
you use that term to describe that state of being, because traditionally we assume that heartbreak means, oh, you have a broken relationship, and a romantic one at that. But it's good to understand that the state of the heart, if I can say, is really about what it's going through, irrespective of whether it's a romantic relationship or even a relationship. It could be about work. It could be about your ideologies, anything for that matter.
Although it's in romantic relationships that the heart is, probably experiences the most connection and the most hurt, in a sense. uh, for many people, it's one of the most powerful emotional experiences for millions of people. And one, I think that we don't, as a society, we're not, your 18-year-old kid is has a girlfriend, or 20, and as parents don't take it seriously, nobody really takes it seriously. But it's a big deal. It's someone's heart. They fell in love. Whether or not it was meant to last is secondary. The experience was real, the heartbreak
Sure.
was real, and the opportunity for transformation is real.
Great, great. So on that note, Sham, we'll bring this session to an end. But thank you for sharing those
Sure.
fantastic tips with us and great insights. And
Not at all.
wish you
Thank you
all
very
the
much.
wish you all the success in all your work with people and mending their hearts.
Thank you very much, Kumar. It's a real pleasure, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I hope it's been of some help to our viewers as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye bye.